of Ganga, and then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here might have. When it is said that enlightenment occurs after the death of the mind, is this expert control over the mind or eradication of the mind? Isn't the mind needed to be in the world? And many enlightened souls have continued to interact with the world after having become enlightened. So what does death of the mind mean? It's a beautiful question, and it's something that actually arises a lot, because when we practice meditation, when we embark on a spiritual path, one of the things that we're told so frequently is this eradication of the mind, annihilation of the mind, that we're going to kill the mind, and then only you will be enlightened. But as the asker pointed out so beautifully, the mind is needed, not only needed, but the mind is a beautiful tool. It's our mind that enables us to sing along in kirtan. We hear something, we repeat it. It's our mind that enables us to make a plan to come to Rishikesh. Our mind, when it's refined, that says, there's so many options. I could go to the beach, I could go to a club, or I could go to a holy place. It's the mind that says, I'm going to set an alarm tonight because I'm waking up early in the morning to start my meditation practice. It's the mind that enables us to chant mantras, that enables us to be aware of the breath. All of the spiritual practices that we do, forget just moving through the world with a balanced checkbook. Our spiritual practices require a mind. So it's not about eradicating the mind. And it's not about some expert control, as the questioner asked, over the mind in a way that we have suppressed it, oppressed it, like it's a slave and we're the master, or like it's a prisoner and we're the jailer. It's much more a matter of befriending the mind in such a way that we're able to use it as a tool. Because whenever you try to do battle with something, the dilemma is, in the case of the mind, as I always say, you go to sleep with the loser. You know, if I fight with someone in my office, at the end of the day, we each go home to separate houses. If I fight with someone in my house, at least at the end of the day, we can each go to separate rooms. Even if it's a spouse, someone ends up on the couch or a guest bedroom or whatever. But if you're doing battle with your mind, well, at the end of the day, whatever you do, you're in bed with the loser. And so that doesn't make for a very peaceful existence. So it's not about eradication or annihilation or subjugation. It's about befriending the mind, which is here to serve us as a tool, but simply befriending it in a way in which you're not handing it the keys to your car and the steering wheel. Imagine that you had a friend or a child, very sweet, you loved them, you enjoyed their company, but they didn't have the best vision, didn't have the best control over their impulses. Young child, where do they want to go? Ice cream. Right? Now they can't even see over the dashboard. Are you going to put that kid in the driver's seat of the car? So without even being able to see, they're going to crash the car into an ice cream parlor? Of course not. You're going to say, chalo piche beto. Bagal mein beto, mein drive karti hun. Not because you're annihilating them or eradicating them, but simply because you understand, I don't want to be in a car driven by you. I have no interest in going to the destination that you want to go to. You don't have good impulse control. You cannot see properly. You don't have any clarity on where we're actually going. So you don't get the keys. But I'm not kicking you out of the car. There's a seat for you, no problem. Be here with me. Just next to me or in the back. I'm driving this car. So that's much more of the way to think about working with the mind. The angers, the grudges, the pain, the resentment, the vengeance, the jealousies, all of that is what steals our peace, steals our life. Pujya Swamiji was mentioning on the banks of Ganga how our beloved Dada J.P. Vaswaniji was this ambassador of peace, an embodiment of peace. And he was the most, not just humble. Humble implies a characteristic. It wasn't a characteristic with Dada. It was that his entire life was simply lived as one with God, where all he wanted to do was love God and therefore love God in all of God's forms. Now, our minds are not as refined, not nearly as refined. And so we find ourselves not living in peace. We find ourselves living in bitterness, in judgment, in negativity, in competition, in grudges. And that's when our mind takes over and creates suffering. So we don't let it drive the car. We use our practice of meditation, of spiritual practice, of devotion, to get ourselves realigned. Because we're so used to just letting the mind and the ego run the show that we don't even know where to go. So our meditation becomes that compass that shows us actually who we really are and therefore where to go. But hold on to the mind, it's a good tool. Just don't let it drive your vehicle. Questions? Anyone? Yes, in the back. Number 2, I'm so sorry. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad.
My question is, practice can be strong very much in the place of love and giving, and then meet somebody new, suddenly finding myself sacrificing things for them, and then I'm out of touch, and I lose the thread of myself. And it can be very free, but then finding that thread again gets hard, and suddenly I find I'm even reaching for my practice, trying to get it, but of course that doesn't really work either when you're reaching for the practice. So you just said meditation and devotion can be a compass, and I guess that was part of an answer, but I wonder if you could speak more to using that as a compass for reconnecting with yourself after you sacrifice.
Sure. So he asked about reconnecting. When we lose our practice, lose our connection, and we then reach to regain it. How do we do that? Because it feels so slippery sometimes. We had it, we lost it, as he said. Sometimes you lose it in relationship. We lose it in so many ways. We get distracted. It's what Maya is. Comes in and wraps us in. In her veil we no longer can see. We get temporarily distracted. And then to bring us back, start with whatever is actually going to work. Meaning, if you decide, okay, I haven't meditated in the last 6 months. I used to have a great practice. Daily 1-hour meditation, daily 1-hour yogasana practice, daily pranayam, daily seva. I was doing service. Used to be, before I got distracted, that I was spending 3-4 hours a day in some kind of practice. Now I've lost it. Now I don't do any of this. If you try to get back by saying, okay, from tomorrow I'm back on my schedule from before, it's going to be really hard. You're out of that habit. And what will end up happening, as you saw, is you grasp for it, but it slips through your hands. You keep grasping, it slips through your hands. Instead, hold on to whatever actually works. Meaning, can you simply commit to meditate 5 minutes tomorrow? Forget the 4 hours for right now. In the world of psychology, which is the academic world I come from, we call it foot in the door. If you want to convince someone to do something, you don't give them the whole shebang all at once. Here's all of what I want from you. You get a little foot in the door. Do you have a minute? Can I talk to you? Could I have a glass of water? Now I'm going to come at you with my whole campaign to donate to save the whales or dolphins or whatever it may be. But foot in the door. Meaning, what can you use to get that door open? Can you go to a yoga class? You're here in satsang. This is a major foot in the door. But it's got to be something that holds your heart. And so find an aspect of your practice, ideally one of love. How do you connect with God in a way in which you love? Now, it doesn't have to be a nameless, formless divine. It doesn't have to be a divine in the form of one that we're used to worshiping. It doesn't have to be Krishna or Ram or Shiva or Jesus Christ it doesn't have to be any of those. It could be the tree in your backyard. It could be a being in your life whom you absolutely unconditionally love. Know that when you love them, if what you love is essence, you're loving God. If all you love is form, it's lust. But if what you love is content, and it's easy with our loved ones, if you've loved someone for more than a few years, their form has changed so many times. But you keep loving them. You love them when they wake up in the morning looking awful. You love them when they're sick. You love them when their hair doesn't work. Because it's not the form, it's the content. Find some way of connecting to love of essence. Something in nature, a being you love, and know that you are loving God in that. And then along with that, begin simply a 5-minute-a-day practice of meditation. Since you've got a practice from before, what you'll see is it'll expand. inside you, you'll want to keep doing it. It'll feel like, yes. But don't tell yourself in advance, I'm going to meditate for an hour. Say, I'm just going to sit for 5 minutes. Just reconnect. Make a commitment. You're going to come to Arati. You're going to come to Yagna. You're going to come to Satsang. Sit on the banks of Ganga. You're here in the land of connection. Sit on the banks of Ganga. Don't even tell yourself, now I have to be meditating. Just watch Ganga. Just watch Ganga flow. Hear her talk to you. And you'll feel that she reaches out and grabs you. So you're not grabbing anymore. You're being grabbed. But the last most important part is you've got to let go of the story of how you lost your connection. Because the more you stay in the drama of this is what happened and I gave too much and I lost myself and I was taken advantage of, and it's a story. It's a game of the mind. It's a drama. And it keeps you out of your heart. We were talking about the mind. It's a beautiful tool. But it keeps us out of our hearts. And so the more you're in your mind telling a story with judgment, with regret, with identification, the less you're actually in your heart, anchoring and grounding in love. So let go of the why you lost it, the how you lost it. Doesn't matter. You're here now. How you got here is irrelevant. You're right here now. And in this moment, you're exactly where you need to be. You're exactly perfect. And the way we know that is God is perfect. And if God had wanted you to be something else, somewhere else, you would be that. So you're exactly perfect right here, right now. Move forward from here. Any other questions? Yes. We'll take this as the last one for this evening.
How can we be less judgmental?
Judgment is a defense mechanism. It's not actually a personality trait. It's a defense mechanism. I judge others because I don't like myself. Judging others helps me feel better about myself. If I'm feeling not beautiful enough, not smart enough, not successful enough, not spiritual enough, because we have judgment on every level. Whatever level I'm not feeling enough, those tend to be the levels in which we judge others. And I do that because it makes me feel better about myself. But it doesn't actually work. It's very cheap. It's very shallow. It doesn't actually give me a deep sense of the fullness of who I am. All it does is it temporarily distracts me from the feeling that I am not enough. If I can move through the world pointing my finger at others, then I don't have to look at how badly I feel about myself. People who are comfortable in themselves, and I don't mean enlightened masters. I mean, obviously they are they also are like this. But you don't have to become an enlightened master to get there. Just being comfortable in your own self, in your body, in your life, in your being. Both the truest and highest, deepest aspect of who you are as the divine, as the soul, but also as who you are as this beautiful human incarnation, as this beautiful human being, or spiritual being having human experience, in which, maybe we'd like to be smarter. Maybe we'd like to look slightly more different. Maybe we would like to be more successful. Maybe we grew up with parents or cultures that were saying, why can't you be like this one? Why can't you be like that one? Look at what this guy's achieving. Why can't you do that? And we grew up feeling less than. Or we simply are subject to the pulls of culture and advertising and media and social media that is aimed and geared billions of dollars of brilliant science to make us feel miserable about ourselves. I mean, really, that's the bottom line, because if I feel miserable about myself, I'm a perfect candidate to click here and buy now, which is ultimately what the internet has become, is just how quickly and effectively can you get people to click here and buy now. But in order to do that, first I have to make them feel like they are lacking in some very significant way. So we move through our world, even if we didn't come into it with complexes and issues. But every time you go on social media, every time you watch TV, every time you're scrolling even the news with the ads that are running, they're all based on making you feel like who you are, what you have, what you've achieved, what you look like, where you live, what you do, where you vacation, what you eat, is not good enough. And if you just buy my product, then you will feel happy. So we've been primed every minute of the day to feel not enough. And that doesn't feel good inside. And so along with tap here, buy now, the other way we deal with that is we judge others. You feel not beautiful? Well, so I'm going to move through the world with, oh my God, she got fat. Wow, look at her hair. My God, what was she thinking? God, that acne is really bad. Ooh. What's he doing dating her? He could do so much better. All of that is just a defense mechanism against me sitting in a feeling inside me that says, essentially, I don't feel worthy of occupying my place here on planet Earth because I don't like how I look. So all of the ways that you're judgmental, from the most superficial to the spiritual, we become very spiritually judgmental also. Right? You sit to meditate, and it's always, oh, this one keeps moving. This one's making noise. They're clearly not meditating. We're constantly judgmental in any ways, and they're all only the avenues in which I don't feel comfortable with myself. So the way to stop being judgmental is actually to turn it back on you. The moment you find yourself being judgmental, ask yourself, hey, what's going on? When did I forget that I'm an embodiment of the divine? I'm full, I'm whole. I'm complete. I am divine. Whatever I look like, whatever I've achieved. God doesn't play favorites. Grace doesn't play favorites. Our highest goal on planet Earth in this human incarnation is not, contrary to popular belief, how much money we're going to make, or what jobs we get, or the corner office, or how many followers we have on Facebook. It's not why we're here. It's not who we are. And so turn it back in on yourself. Where have I lost my way? What have I forgotten? And then re-engage with the awareness. Like I was telling him, if God wanted you to be different, you'd be different. God loves the rose and the jasmine and the sunflower equally. I mean, could you imagine if one of them decided they wanted to be like the other, if the rose starts bemoaning the fact that, it doesn't have the little delicate petals like the jasmine does? Why does the jasmine smell like this and I'm like that? Well, they're all perfect in their own way. So we need to refine that in our own selves. And lastly, insofar as it becomes a habit, an unconscious habit, a very, very simple and effective way of dealing with any kind of these habits that you literally only remember when you're smack in the middle of it, is take a little rubber band. Again, back from days of psychology science. Take a little rubber band, put it around your wrist. Just thin, small rubber band. And the moment that you find yourself in the middle of judging someone else, complaining about someone else, just flick that rubber band once. This area of the skin is very sensitive. Very sensitive. Just flick it once. Not 10 minutes later, but the moment you realize, in that instant. And what will happen is your brain very quickly will start to actually realize it's judging even before you realize you're judging. Because suddenly it realizes, oh no, I'm about to get hurt. That subconscious that knows when I judge, I get hurt, is going to start to cringe before your conscious mind even knows you're judging again. And so it's a great, very simple way of stopping any kind of habit. But make sure to do the deep work as well, because who you are is divine, is exactly perfect, is exactly who and how you should be. And the more you realize that, the more you're going to be able to give that to others, because we can only give others what we have. If I'm feeling miserable inside, I'm going to bring misery to others. If I'm feeling joy and peace inside, I'm going to bring joy and peace to others. So find that inside. And suddenly you're going to be the one bringing others love and confidence and self-acceptance and self-love. Beautiful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. A beautiful rest of your evening. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. And we invite you to join us. I ended satsang a bit early tonight because for the next several days we have a beautiful program taking place on the Ghat, back where we have Arati, that starts at 8, but you should get there a little bit early and get a seat and have something to eat before you go down. A beautiful program of the Ram Leela being put on by children from schools across India, from the children of our Gurukul. It's an enactment. For those not familiar with what Ram Leela is, it's an enactment of the story of the Ramayana, the story of Lord Ram's life, put on as a drama, with song, with dance, with all kinds of costumes and set and the whole shebang. It's fantastic. So we invite you to join us all down on the Ghat for that as well. It's back where we had Arati, but just to the left, the covered Ghat next to where we have Arati. And even if you don't speak Hindi, don't worry. You may not understand the narration, but you'll understand the beautiful drama and you will really be able to love that. So much love to all of you, and look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow.